made people laugh, that he was funny, and that they loved to smile. He also had a great comedic timing that would bust up even the most serious conversation. And he was doing that even up until the last minute, even in all his pain. He startled one night. He was having a dream, you could tell. And he said, "Mom, I just attended my own funeral." And Mom said, you're right here, baby, you didn't die. And he said, "Well, obviously." So, that was my brother. His faults ran as deep as his love, but fortunately, we will be best remembering him for his heart, which was bigger than most. So I'm going to take you through a little timeline of Robert. He was born in Dallas, Texas, and he actually became a fat little baby with curly hair. And we see the curly hair in his daughter Kylie for sure. Then I'm not sure exactly what he got sick from, but he got sick, became skinny, and that's the Robert we know and love. He couldn't gain weight to save his life, even when he tried his hardest. And I always told him that he could have some of mine. A couple of my favorite stories about Robert. He was always with me, as a bunch of those pictures you can tell. He always made sure, I always knew he had my back. One time, I'm not sure exactly why, we got mad at my mom. We told her we were running away. My mom, she said, "Fine. See you later." So we packed our bags, we got our sticks, we tied our handkerchiefs on the end of it with a little bit of provisions for the day. I think maybe we put a shirt in there, and we tromped off down the road, me and Rob together. Went down the railroad tracks and sat in a big concrete tube for a couple hours, ate our snacks up, and decided that it was time to go home because we were out of food. Showed up, my mom was very upset with us, and we didn't quite understand why, because she said it was fine. But we both got to sit in our rooms the rest of the day, listen to the 2001 Space Odyssey was playing in the background, and that was one of the favorite times where we got the "just wait till your dad gets home." Yeah, those are always the worst times. Another time he had my back. We were playing around in the house, and my mom and dad were at work. We were running around the coffee table, I remember, and I had a plastic water gun in my hand, and I warmed it right at his face, just chucked it right at his head. I wasn't really doing it on purpose necessarily, but it hit him right here, shattered, blood was everywhere, and so then it was my job to convince him to tell Mom that he ran into the table. So that was after that. I took him to, I had this certain dresser that I kept all my cool toys in, and I told him, I said, "Hey, you can have any toy you want, because I know I'd get it back later. And just tell Mom that you ran into the coffee table." And he sure told my mom that he ran into the coffee table. So it wasn't until we were both grown, much later, that we actually told Mom that I cut his head with a toy gun. Another picture you're probably going to see in this in the slideshow, I'm sure, is a picture of young Robert in front of a birthday cake with a giant dot in the middle of his forehead, and he has a shaved head. We had this cat called Thumbs, and it was called Thumbs because it was inbred and it had extra paws, or extra toes on its paws. It could grab things with its paws. It was really ridiculous. But he loved that cat. And even when the cat got ringworm, Robert still loved the cat and still let the cat sleep with him. And so that big dot in the middle of my brother's head was ringworm. And you can imagine all the good-natured ribbing he got from that. Another thing about my brother, he loved music. You're going to hear, you heard some of it earlier. Impromptu, even though it was. We grew up listening to the same music, and we'd play video games, and we actually had a timing rhythm how we played these video games along with the music. And many of the songs that he wrote down on the list that he wanted to play were the ones that we listened to growing up. Brother was very fierce, protective, and loyal. Even though he was tiny, really. He would never back down from anything. We got into an argument one time. I think we were maybe playing some video games, and he kept, and it was when I was a lot bigger than he was. He kept charging at me over and over again, and I kept picking him up and throwing him on the couch, and he'd run at me again and picking him up. I didn't know when he was going to stop. He finally did, thank goodness, because I was getting awful tired. And my sister, she says that her most fond memories, not necessarily fond, but most of her memories are of Robert beating her up. For no apparent reason whatsoever, as big brothers usually do. But she did know that if she was ever in trouble, that he had her back. As you can see on the table, right down here, Dallas Cowboys. My brother, from a very young age, we were both indoctrinated into the Dallas Cowboys mindset. You rarely see a picture of him with a hat other than a Dallas Cowboys hat. And it's a love we've always shared. It was something that we talked about immensely, especially during this last year while he was sick. As a lot of you probably know, one of his requests was to be able to go to a Dallas Cowboys game. He didn't really care where, but he said he wanted to go with me, so that was cool. So making sure, you saw some pictures up there, made it happen. Actually, the Dallas Cowboys gave us tickets to the Ring of Honor suite in AT&T Stadium, and we were able to watch Dallas beat up on the Houston Texans 2017 in an overtime victory. Thank you very much. So that was great, awesome, and thank you, Dallas Cowboys, for that. That transitions into his adulthood. Our family was into painting houses, not painting artistic stuff. We're not that fancy, but we grew up around painters, and Robert started painting with my uncle when I took off from the Navy after he got out of high school. He loved it. My uncle taught him some of the most important things that he could have taught him, and those were that if you're going to do it right, you need to do it right the first time. And that was something that Robert always did when it came to his jobs. And if anybody knows him from those jobs, they know that he took that experience into that job and did it right. With that lifestyle in Texas, though, Rob picked up some bad habits, and those habits led him to a very hard time in his life. And the cool thing about Rob was that at that time he realized that he needed a change. So he called me up and he asked me if he could come live with me. And he did. He came to live with me. He lived in my basement. He was on a little basement troll for a while. And we got to spend a lot of time together during that time. And he really got to know his nieces and nephews, which was awesome. During this time, he also decided that he needed to go in a different direction in his life, and that was when he actually decided to join the Navy. And we went and talked to a recruiter to get that started. Rob asked me what he could do while he was in the Navy, and fortunately, that was a question that I could answer for him. He was good at painting, and there's a seamanship apprentice job that is perfect for that. It's basically you paint the ship. That's all you do. You get done painting at one end, you go back and start it the other, because the rusty things at sea for some reason. But it's also a place where he could learn what he wanted to do and then move on from that. So that was something that he was super interested in as well. What he could further himself in. So after boot camp, he went to Seaman Apprentice School, and then he was assigned to the USS Paul Hamilton in Hawaii, which is the, if you wanted to know, the 10th Arleigh Burke class destroyer, of which now there are 65 of them. And then there was where my brother, I saw my brother really pull on his grown-up shoes, and then he worked really hard to work his way out of that seamanship apprentice program, and he became an engineman in the Navy, which on the ship is an engineman works on just about the entire ship. The ACs are very important, any of the water purification systems, and anything that they worked on all the galley equipment as well, so they're very important for us in the food wise. So Robert did did it and attacked it with gusto. In fact, one of his friends, Alex from the Paul Hamilton, he stated that Robert's influence in his life was really that of a big brother. And when me and Robert were talking about him going into the Navy, he was a little concerned about himself being older. But I told him it's an advantage, and a lot of the times I saw guys that were older when they joined, do really well because they'd already done all the messing up in life, and they were ready to get moving, and that was where Robert was at. So his friend Alex said that he was like a big brother to him and a mentor, and that was what Robert had always told me was going to be his biggest role, and especially since he was affectionately referred to as Old Man on the ship. It was there in Hawaii that he met Maria. And there's some funny stories about how they got together, because he must have been something else, because he did get Maria's number, even though she was going to give him a fake number, because she wasn't super interested about dating anybody at the time. And but I guess my brother pulled on some of that charm. And, he kept up his pursuit, and after they talked at Denny's until about 4 o'clock in the morning one night, the rest of that is history. So she also wanted me to relay a funny story. She was supposed to get a phone call from him on Easter, and his ship was pulled into port in Guam, where my brother went out, and he, being a sailor, went out to, got awfully intoxicated, and but nobody knew from backstage side. So Maria was
we already know this.
And waiting, and she waited 3 days to find out that my brother got in trouble and actually got alcohol poisoning, was admitted to the hospital, and then was actually eventually able to call her where he was on the ship, and he had gotten disciplined a little bit. But that's wearing the same kind of uniform I'm wearing right now. But yes, he knew how to keep Maria against him. Fatherhood. That was something Robert seemed to shy away from most of his adult life. I'll tell you that. He had always stated to me that he would never have kids. And I can tell you that was until he met Maria. Because there was something there that he said changed him. He felt that he was going to be more of a man at this point. And then they had a beautiful pattern. And she was the sun and the moon and the stars for Robert. Then they added Winston and said that if Winston was first, there would have been a second. But he loved him too. And they had a complete set. Soon after they had Winston is when Maria got out of the Navy, and they moved to Kentucky to begin their second part of their life, is where a lot of you guys know him from. With Maria, he pressed them every day, the children, to make sure they were raised right. He always told me he wasn't just going to have babies, he was going to raise children, and children who were respectful and knew how to act right. Children who know how to contribute to society and not just take. Very important to Robert. Maria will continue to do this work, but Maria, I want you to know you're not alone. You got a lot of people in this room, and there's a lot of family. In his last days, Rob was surrounded by family, and I know that he was at peace when he passed. Water drink. Good water. My mom made numerous trips up to help out and stay with Rob while Maria was working. A lot of you probably know she still had to work when Robert was sick because she was the income. So she was keeping up with that and keeping the kids at home. And she's amazing for that. Absolutely amazing. My sister Lachey, my little brother Elva also made 2 trips up to make sure they lent us support and to say goodbye. Rob, he really wouldn't have wanted us to be sad and move around at this point. So I'm going to fix myself right now and not be sad. He would want us to have a celebration of his life. So whenever one of you guys think about him, think about the times he made you laugh. Drink water. And he helped you out even when he might not have been able to. Think about his big, loving heart and his desire to make the people he loved laugh and be better people. We love you, Rob, and we always will. Save us a seat, because this isn't the last time you're going to make us laugh.